Welcome to the most forward-thinking, inspirational podcast in this reality. The show designed to challenge everything we've been taught. If you've ever felt there had to be more to life, more to existence, then you're listening to the right podcast. Time to open your mind and dive in. This is the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast.
And here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another wonderful edition of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. I like to do voices sometimes. I've gotten better at it, and I like to use my radio voice while addressing the initial introduction of the show. I like the idea that, how do I put this? There are people out there, believe you me, there are people out there that don't like you. How does that sit with you? I don't know. It used to bother me. It used to make me think, holy shit. I remember worrying about Google reviews from perfect strangers. This fucking guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Or like anyone that wants to leave a shit review on the podcast. I'm totally for it. I agree. And here's another thing too, since I'm on the topic. I was looking at the reviews. Ladies and gentlemen, if you want to drift over to iTunes and just leave some version of a review, 1 star, 5 star, 3 star. Actually, the only thing we don't have is a 3-star review. We've got a few 1-star reviews because, I don't know, apparently I talk too fast or I triggered some people that didn't quite care for it. 5-star reviews I appreciate. I've never been one to ask. I've never been like, hey, get over there and like and subscribe. Fuck. It's so weird because as much as I would love to have a few more clients, a few more ears on the show, we're growing quite well. Even without the metrics of, we're not playing by the rules they want us to play by. And we were heavily shadow banned going through the 2020 through now scenario where our shit wasn't getting played simply because we were, I guess, proposing another idea, an alternative idea. And at first it was an aggressive alternative idea. We were like, don't fuck around. But now it's more like a, hey man, free thought. And it's funny because these are the things that sort of alter your path. I had no intention on, actually, to be truthful, the whole thing about this show started with don't be a prisoner of your past was a major idea. This abuse that we put ourselves through. And the more I went down that rabbit hole, the more everything expanded, the more everything needed to be talked about. Obviously, I was conspiracy minded, and I say conspiracy minded because back in the day, there's no real other word for it. But I was interested. I had interest in the idea that there was more. It was a simple idea. Fuck, there's more. There's got to be more to life than this. And as I sat, watched, listened, learned, looked in on myself, checked in on everything that I possibly could, all of the researches that I could do, you understand too that doing the research, sadly, is for the most part Google searching, Googling. And it's all controlled. Your returns are controlled. So how do you find esoteric knowledge? It came from books. How do you find books? You gotta listen to what people are talking about. There's a lot of really good books that I would suggest, but they're like really fucking boring. And there's a lot, but the only problem with that is there's a lot of information that's in there that we need. And we have to sift through the other crap. Audiobooks is good for that because if you've got an audiobook playing in the background, your mind will pick up on a lot of stuff. And what I've found too, though, is the majority of the truth or not so much the truth, let's say the majority of the direction I feel I need to be going in, I acquire that from subtle nuances, which comes from a base of collecting as much information as I can. Funny thing is there's a movie called Conspiracy Theory or Conspiracy Theorist or whatever. It's Mel Gibson and Julia Roberts. I think it was like 1998. I'm just spitball. I'm guessing. But it was around that time, 98 to 2002. And the beginning of the movie is him sitting in a cab, just prattling off all of these, and he sounds like a Looney Tunes. He's prattling off all these conspiracies. And then they even make him look crazy by him driving around the city of New York, with just telling somebody about all these conspiracies. And then he realizes that there's nobody in the back seat. And he goes, oh, fuck, there's nobody there. I've been talking to myself this whole time, making him look even crazier. Give that movie a shot, ladies and gentlemen. Put that movie on for like the first 10 minutes. Oh, that opening scene. Everything that made him sound crazy in 1998 is legit now. It's open. It's been talked about. It exists freely. So who's gonna, who's gonna, whatever comes in the future, why the fuck would we spend time today shitting on people for having these ideas, or for speaking of these things, or for sharing this information? Imagine being somebody who needs to shit on somebody else. This brings me into part 2 to this wonderful podcast. I love the summertime, ladies and gentlemen, by the way. Summertime in Canada, we get some really cool concerts that roll through between Ottawa, Montreal, and Toronto. If you're from Toronto, you say Toronto. If you're not from Toronto, you say Toronto. If you're from Toronto, you say Toronto. So between Montreal, Toronto, and Ottawa, we get a lot of really good shows. The coolest show, one of the coolest shows, I shouldn't say the coolest because it's actually been pretty good summer. We just saw the Lay Smashing Pumpkins and Rancid. I mean, come on, Rancid. These guys put on a show. When was the last time you guys heard a Rancid song? It's one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, I love Rancid, and you remember like liking them from when you were a kid, but it didn't make, I don't know. It's like once they hit the stage, it's like, oh my god, I can't believe I know A, all the songs, and B, how great Rancid really was. How much fun is this? I wonder if I'll get in trouble for playing a song through as I'm conversing with y'all. I don't know. Can I find the happy medium between sound and voice? But man, Rancid was fun. And yeah, Rancid was great. And Smashing Pumpkins was wonderful. And Billy Joel Armstrong, I was never a Green Day fan, but they were really cool. And right after that, we went to the Crash Test Dummies concert, which is a small little band that I loved. I had this weird affliction for. I loved this band. I didn't even know why. I was like 12 years old, and when they were at their most popular. But the past few years, I've gotten to see them a few times, and I really like it. I think it's cool as hell. It just sort of throws me back on that 12-year-old me thing. It's just fun. Well, I like it. But yeah, it's been the concert, summer of concerts. It's been great. Limp Bizkit, man. We caught up with Limp Bizkit on July 24th. That show was high energy. And when he said, how many of you, this is your first Limp Bizkit show? And 90% of the hands went up. I was like, holy shit. Like, there's this really cool resurgence. Like, we are, but I guess it's the equivalent now of being like, when we were kids, I say we, I'm talking about those in their 40s. It would have been the equivalent of, I don't know, Led Zeppelin or the Rolling Stones, not the Rolling Stones, but like a huge band, the Doors or whatever, coming back and after like 20 years and just being like, here, and we're going to sound exactly like you remember us sounding like. I just couldn't imagine that sort of thing. Like, it's kind of cool. So I guess that's the same thing. Like, we're old now. So all the old stuff that we listen to, because now all music for the most part is just, I don't want to say crap because that makes me sound like an old man, but it's crap. We caught Jelly Roll as well, and this is like country hip hop. Apparently, he's got the #1 song in the world right now, but I don't know what that means. But his stuff is good, and his message is good, and he promotes good shit. But yeah, man, Rancid was a lot of fun. Out Come the Wolves. Every song on that album is my youth. It's weird. I guess we just put it on. What was it? It would have been the cassette at the time. No, it would have been the CD. Remember the flip decks? It's like even a dot matrix screen. You press, but the dolphins would jump. Man, if people knew how cool they were, whenever you see that, like, you were the coolest kid in the world. You had that thing. Anyway, I digress. I'm saying all this simply because it's fascinating how little time we get in Canada to enjoy the summer. And that's a microcosm of how little time in life we get to enjoy life. I mean, some kids, some people die super young. We don't know what death is, so I'm not like poo-pooing it. But if you're here to have an experience, and say you've got 60 to 100 years on average, and the first 10 years of that is you trying not to shit your pants, it's kind of like, fuck, it doesn't matter where you are in life. We're running out of time. And that doesn't sound morbid, because it's the only thing that really makes life worth living is the fact that we're losing it. And that also sounds morbid. I'm not trying to sound morbid here. What I'm saying is we waste so much time on the shittiest things in life. And I sit here and I have these wonderful moments, and I wish I was recording more episodes, but at the same time, I'm learning, I'm experiencing, I'm having fun out there. We're limited in time. So yeah, in the summertime, the episodes are few and far between. But then when you get inspired, you just unload. You unload all your information, all your thoughts, all your new ideologies, and all this fun stuff. And you get to have these experiences like the one I'm having right now with all of you. I sit here and I get to share, yes, with you, but also with me. By sharing it, by talking about it, I get to remember it. And this is one of the things that people that don't podcast or don't speak openly, like, there's so much shit that comes out of my mouth. There's so much information. There's so much fun stuff. But at the end of the day, it's just me sitting here. Have you ever tried to have a conversation with somebody that it's not easy to converse with, or they just don't want to listen, or they're so self-absorbed, or any number of things? There's a litany of things. And we will jump into that in a second too. But having conversations with people that just simply want to overtalk you or relate to you in some tone or what have you, and you don't really get the chance to say what you want to say, because first of all, we were taught never to put ourselves first. Therefore, most conversations aren't so much about me and you and this, that, and the other thing. So we don't get to speak our truth into the open. And I think that that's a terrible thing. Honestly, I sit here, I move the mic with my mouth. That's probably why it sounded a little bit louder. But I sit here and I get to talk to you. And without me talking to you, when do I get the chance to talk? People will say, oh, you're a blowhard. You're a windbag. You talk all the time, you son of a bitch. But this is cathartic. The podcast is cathartic. And whether we've got one listener or we've got 1,000 listeners or we've got 10,000 listeners, we have one speaker, one lovely, perpetual, loving his life speaker. Unless, of course, I have guests. Yes, I understand, Karen. One speaker, me, I get to share. And the more I get to put out there, the more it becomes part of the ethos. The more it's out there, the more I understand, the better I understand the situation that I'm in. Simply by having the ability to speak and create and put out. And I get to learn more. It's therapeutic to get out there and just simply speak. If this didn't exist, would I spend any time at all just staring at a wall telling this story? I don't think so. I think I need to articulate this story, and I think I need to use voices from time to time and change my inflection and be entertaining. Or I could just talk like this and read the paper. I could do like was it ASMR? SMR? I'll just use my voice to make the microphone do things. I don't quite know. But yeah, I could go on like that for hours. What the hell's going on? That kid's lost his ever-loving mind. But you get to be creative. And creativity in any way, shape, or form is absolutely amazing. So I'm saying many things, and I'll continue to do so. But on this particular episode, 299, by the way, pretty cool. Pretty cool. I think that we're hovering around the 300 mark. I can't wait to get to 600. It's just one of those cool things where it's like, the more you do this, the more you want to do this. The more you create and contribute, the more you want to create and contribute. And you realize too, it's not about you guys. It's not about the listeners. It's literally about me needing to speak. And when you guys do it, when you get out there and when you start creating, it's about you simply needing to speak. And it comes back to this whole thing where we're not allowed to think about ourselves and we're not allowed to put ourselves first because that's a selfish thing, which is kind of a funny segue into what I'm about to talk about. The people out there that are so self-absorbed, they're entertainingly hilarious. I shared a meme today. Allow myself to dig this meme up as I am speaking and not creating dead noise, because that's what I'm all about as I'm hunting around my phone right now to pull up the meme that I shared without creating dead noise. Or, you know what I could have done is just stop talking and then edited this piece out. But I absolutely hate editing for sound. I love pressing record, running through, pressing end, and sending it away. This is the meme. My favorite anti-aging methods are inner peace, exercise, and minding my own business. It's so true. It's so true. But there are some people out there, and this ties fully into, we're running out of time in the summer to appreciate the sun, the heat, and all the fun things. We're running out of time in life to appreciate stuff. Could you imagine living your life being an aggressive, angry little turd? Little turd knocker. It sucks. It's got to suck. But as somebody who's like a perpetual observer, it's a strange thing. And I guess it happens at a contrast. I get to witness these people be filled with hate. And you look at this and you're like, how and why? And I'm talking about one person in particular. And why I'm laughing, I'm not talking about how do I put this? I'm talking about one sect of people in particular. The person that we meet on a regular basis. There's always that one person that thinks they're so separate and unique, yet they express who they are in every hateful tweet or every negative message. And it's almost like a sarcastic thing or a funny thing, or it's just somebody that doesn't want to take any responsibility. When you are running out of time and you're utilizing the time that you've got to be spiteful and to be hateful, I think that that can only really exist in or as a cautionary tale. I see this and I think to myself, you know what? Maybe my life isn't where I think I want it to be, but thank God I don't blame other people for my problems. Thank God I quit drinking. When you're an alcoholic and you're unaware that you're an alcoholic and you want to point the finger at everybody else and you think everything sucks, like you wake up hating yourself. This is how a lot of suicides take place. Like you wake up believing your own bullshit and it's detrimental to your health 100%. Right. But also you're fucking with people that are all around you. Those who either love you now or once loved you. Like you're just an absolute disaster. And you want them to feel the pain that you feel. And I know this. I lived there. I was that guy at one point. I was an alcoholic that was suffering. And I wanted everyone to suffer with me. You have to ask yourself where that comes from. Where does that programming come from? And people can say, oh, well, it's deep-rooted in your childhood. You were abandoned as a kid and this, that, and everything. I look at perspective. Like my childhood wasn't the easiest. And I was very, very angry. So I look back at my past and I'm like, I went through that. I lived through that. I don't have any desire to be angry, happy, like overly happy, overly angry, overly anything. I have every desire in the world to comprehend the world itself better. My sarcasm when I was a drunk was mean. My sarcasm now is highly entertaining and nobody's ever said it's mean because The best sarcasm is like, bazinga. It gets you, but you're like, oh, that shit was funny though. I love that meme where it's like, the guy's just like sour facing, you know? And the caption's like, when he burns you, but but you've never heard the burn before. And you're like, that's a good one. Oh, that's a good one. And 2024, we're living in a society that doesn't allow insults or bullies or anything like that. And the funny thing about quote unquote not allowing bullies is there's a whole group of people bullying you not to be a bully. And they're talking at you with dark undertones and aggression in their voice. And I feel bad. So I feel bad for these people. Having lived through it and having understood and comprehended sort of where the aggression, the anger, the weakness is coming from. Because at the end of the day, you have to be a tiny, tiny human being to want others to hurt. And the only way that you can see that this person is tiny and pathetic is by your own growth. So for you to get past certain things, or for you to not accept certain things in your life, you have to be at a place where at one point you did accept them. And you learn to teach yourself how not to accept things. Somebody's going to shit on you. Like, okay, let's just say somebody punches you 4 times. And the 5th time you're like, enough is enough. It's a strange analogy. But the next time you find yourself in that situation, they punch you 3 times. And the 4th time you're like, no, we're stopping this right now. And then finally you get to a position where you don't even stand next to the people that give off the I'm going to punch you energy. And then there's going to be a lot of people that say things like, well, how do you know who's going to punch you? Honestly, trust your gut, trust your intuition. You know. And what happens to the drunks that are out there being small men, little coward boys? These are the ones that radiate quote unquote toxic masculinity. And again, I can't stress enough. There's no such thing as toxic masculinity. Masculinity is divine. It is an essence, a power, a prowess. Somebody who is very comfortable with who they are will open your door, will hold your hand, will take you to nice places, will build a cabin if they have the ability to. Masculinity is confidence, is character, is kindness, is being the softest man in the world, and also not taking any guff. Toxic masculinity is the lack of it, is the polar opposite. It's not masculinity at all. It's little coward boy. That's toxic masculinity. So we live in a world where we're not even allowed to address masculinity, right? And if you think about it, like the bastardization of everything that's going on is wild, but it exists for you to truly see who you are by proxy, by comparison. The only way to find out who you are is to find out who you're not. So the entirety of this world is essentially a what you're not scenario. And what you are is staring you in the face, but you can't figure that out. You can't figure that out if contrast doesn't exist. So all the little men out there, thank you very much. I personally thank the little men out there. A, because I was one and I get to see just how far I've come. And B, because often the littlest men on the planet wreck the most beautiful things, which give other predominant men the ability to come and fix themselves through the assistance of somebody else. When you find your kismet, when you find your ability to truly contribute to somebody, what you're doing is unintentionally, but aligning yourself with the version of you that needed you when you were younger. When you find someone to help and to spend your time with and to be a part of, you get to quote unquote fix them or help them fix themselves. But predominantly you get to fix you. And this is what we do. We seek that version of us that exists out there, that wishes they had who we are, to help them, to help us. Sorry, that's getting convoluted over here. But the truth is, for you to find your passion and purpose in life, you have to be able to become the person that you needed when you were younger. And the only way that you can do that is to go through the bullshit that you went through when you were younger to find out that you needed to become the person that's there to help you when you're younger. Welcome to the figure eight of it all, the infinity loop of life. And I said earlier, we don't know what death is. We don't know what death is. We don't understand what it is or where it comes from. We've seen it on TV. We have an idea, a representation of what it may or may not be. We don't know. Right? And we sit here and we think to ourselves, how much time do I have? We don't know. But you could die tomorrow. Hell, you could never live. You could live until you're 95 and still never live a day. Every single person that's out there blaming other people, and I'm telling you this right now, I don't think any of this audience is doing that. Obviously, you guys are amazing. But we all have that one friend, or we know that one person that is just cantankerous. So busy living in hate, so busy blaming everybody, so busy not taking responsibility and being oblivious to the fact that they're not taking responsibility. Don't associate with these people. They will suck the ever-loving life out of you. Right? And the more you meet these people down your journey, down your path, this is the person that punched you 4 times, and 5, you said enough. 3, you said enough. 2, you said enough. 1, you said enough. This is that person. And after experiencing them enough times, you walk away. But you only walk away when you've taken the lesson you needed to take from them. When you value yourself in a world that tells you to put everybody else first. These narcissists, these little men, these quote-unquote toxic masculine men, they exist to show you how strong you are. And to show you what you can walk away from. And to show you that you're better than anything that they could put you through. Once you truly start loving yourself, the whole fucking game changes. That's a big step. That's a huge one. And honestly, that's the meaning of life to a lot of people. Right? So without these tiny little coward, pursed lips weirdos, we don't have the ability to truly test ourselves. And as much as we want to either argue with them or anything like that, you find yourself in a position where you're like, hey, doesn't matter. There's no dealing with logic in these scenarios, in these situations. There's no nothing. This exists right now for me to learn to love me, not justify shit to anyone, step into purpose, move with character and integrity, and operate fully in integrity. And when you do that, you unload a boatload of situations in your life that no longer need your attention. This is how we level up. And remember, too, that the people in your life, there are people in your life, a reason, a season, or a lifetime. These people are always here to help you, to be a part of something for you. Just like in the story of somebody else, you're there to help them cultivate and curate who they are. Because everybody is the main character in their own story. At the same time, everybody is a non-player character in your story. We're all playing our own unique game in this giant sandbox. That's why every single person has the ability to have a different opinion. Because it doesn't matter if you're twin brothers raised in the same household. You're leading 2 completely different lives with 2 completely different opinions because of perspective. Because you are not them. You are not your twin brother. And to find that out, you have to look at your twin brother and realize that you are not them. We have a finite amount of time in this reality. It doesn't matter how old you are. Your time is running out. That's not being morbid. That's a statement to maximize. Get out there and do exactly what you want to do. Live your life with a fucking smile on your face because it's so much easier. Create. Cultivate. Grow. Learn. Expand. But don't sit around. Well, none of you guys do it. Don't spend time with people sitting around pointing the finger and blaming the world for their problems. I say this again and I reiterate it. These people don't have the ability right now to grow. They don't have the ability to understand the fault in their ways until they do. And we always know that if you really love this person and they just won't grow until it's too late, that's always the case. But here we are. It's too late. which means you've moved on from that person in their life. And that person in their life needs to understand themselves more without blaming you or the people around you, so that hopefully the next encounter or the next phase of their life could potentially be a happier one. So as much as we need these people to be shits so that we understand who we are, they need to be shits as well so that they hopefully can grow from it themselves. This again ties back to the bullying thing. You know, those who were bullies now are being blasted for being bullies, but they're being bullied as well. And it's interesting to watch this narrative shift where the self-righteous believe that they're so correct that they have the ability to stand up and yell. Right? Think about, look at gay rights, trans and all that sort of stuff. Even me saying that is dangerous. Oh no, what's he going to say? What's he going to do? I read this story or saw this clip of a woman was taking a picture of an individual taking a shit, legit taking a shit on a public beach. And she said in her video, and I quote, "The East Indians shitting on the beach." And that was her TikTok. And the police showed up at her door saying that she was spreading hate. All she was doing was showing and filming and recording. The police showing up at your door? That's bullying. Right? Somebody out there is like, hey, this is a hate crime. It is not a hate crime. It's an observation. Right? So who's the bully now? The lunatic maniac, the asylum lady who is trying to be a social justice warrior. Right? But all she's ever done is revealed her true character. This is the same with reviews. Don't worry about Google reviews. Don't worry about podcast reviews or comments. These people that want to shit on you for being creative or for trying or for saying something, all they're doing is showing you and showing the world who they are. I'm not talking about you. They're just like, they might as well just get on there, give you a 1-star review and be like, I'm a giant pile of fucking shit. I don't have the ability to create anything I want to create, so I'm going to tear down other people in an attempt to make myself feel better. I'm going to attempt to piggyback off that person. Now, that may sound like I'm coming across as vindictive when I say that, but I'm not. It's a factual thing. This person believes these things, and it has to happen that way for that person to, I don't know, feel good about themselves, but it has to happen that way and enough times for you to be like, me and everyone like me can see past the smallness of this person, especially if you're operating with integrity. Now, if you get a 1-star review because you're, I don't know, punching kids, I get that. Like, don't do that. Don't be an asshole, and you won't get a 1-star review. To which somebody could easily say, well, my definition of an asshole and your definition of an asshole are two entirely different things. Understood. But me personally, I live my life by a code. A man is only as good as his word. And that's my simple code. I don't give my word that often, but when I do, it's as good as gold. And I live with integrity. You don't just go around and do whatever you want. You create yourself a code of ethics. And you operate in and within that code of ethics, and you witness what you attract by doing so. As opposed to what you try to commandeer and control by being dangerous, daring, and manipulative. And again, this is the alcohol. I've never met a person that over-consumes an alcohol that isn't an aggressive, tiny little weirdo. At some point or another. They're either loving on you too much, which is also uncomfortable. They're hating on you, or they do the rotation. They start off fine. 1 or 2 beers, they're good. 3 beers, they're in love. 4 beers, they're getting frustrated. 5 beers, everyone's an asshole. 6 beers, they're driving home drunk. All that happens is when the drunker you get, the less you have the ability to control who you are. And the character that's inside you, the one that you try to hide from the entire world, comes out when you're drunk. And that's it, right? That character that you built. You want to come face to face with who you are? Get fucking smashed and see who's staring back at you. I don't recommend getting smashed, by the way. Take that out, because that's just, it's an old way of doing things. And even still, one of the cool things too, when you look at the stats now, all across the board, consumption of alcohol is down. A, it's way too expensive. Inflation's gnarly. But B, this generation isn't sitting in front of the television like you and I did. Every single commercial when we were kids was for vodka, for beer, Kokanee, the great American beer, Coors, the banquet beer, Ford, all that stuff. When I get older, I'd like to do all of the stuff that Sam Elliott used to do. I think I could do Coors Light voiceovers. Built Ford tough. I could do that stuff too. I could ask myself a little bit of an accent in there and talk about Ford trucks. I think that's fun. I'd love doing voice work. For someone somewhere, I'll do some voice work. What was I talking about? Small man. Drinking. Yeah. So we're watching TV, and literally every other commercial was about waiting. Must be legal drinking age. Must be legal drinking age. When I'm 19, I'm going to get as drunk as I possibly can and stay that way for the rest of my life. That shit was intentional. Each and every one of you still drinking right now, I am not passing judgment. But I'm telling you this right now, you were fucking tricked. You were tricked into boozing. And it's amazing what happens when you're like, you know what? I'm gonna do a detox for 60 days. You quit drinking for 60 days, your whole fucking life changes. There's not a single person on this planet that says, I quit drinking and my life went to shit. Not one. All of us that are still drinking look at this stuff and we're like, fuck, I probably still smoke cigarettes. I do this, I do that. You know, you might as well be doing crack cocaine. I don't know what that means. But drinking itself, once you throw it away, so many other of your weirdo habits go away with it. And I'm speaking from experience. I was a debaucherous drunk because A, I hated myself, and B, I didn't know any better. And it was all over the TV, and it seemed like the norm, and it was just the cool thing to do. You go and you get drunk with your friends. You get a job at the bar. You bounce in a small town for the majority of your life where everybody knows who you are. It was just the thing. You lead a crazy life. But I'll tell you this right now. There's no hate in my bones. There's no nothing left except for gratitude, thankfulness, praise. And I've said this 1,000 times. To everyone I ever wronged in the past, I apologize to you blanketly. And why I can't apologize to you individually is because it's not on me to do that. I've experienced this. I've had an individual come up to me that totally fucked me, totally wronged me. And he said to me, he's like, I need to apologize to you for what I did. And I said, Jesse, you don't need to apologize for nothing. Don't worry about it. Actually, what you did was you did me a favor. And he said to me, he said, it's not about you. This is his exact words. And I thought to myself afterwards, I'm like, this is very, very, very poignant. It's not about you. He said, I'm entering a chapter in my life where I need to live definitively. And what I did to you, I can't move forward without apologizing for and asking for forgiveness. And I laughed at that. And I said, well, you don't have to ask. I said, you got my forgiveness. Go ahead. Go do whatever you got to do. Now, if you think about this, and even this is even a 12-step recovery thing. But this guy, and imagine I was a weaker person. So this guy that totally fucks me in my life shows back up years later, reminds me of the situation, and demands that I give him forgiveness. If that ain't the most selfish, fucked up thing in my entire life, I don't even know what it is. And I say that because when I think back to like face-to-face apologizing for those I've wronged, right? I live in a world where, because I was so filled with self-hate, I believe much darker things about myself from my youth than are true. Because I've had so many people come up to me and be like, I don't remember you that way. You know, you were always the life of the party. You were always laughing and fun. But I was living in despair inside my own head. That was just the way it was. So for the people that I would think to apologize to, if anybody ever like was like, hey, you fucked me at this point. If somebody comes up to me from my past, 100% I'll have a sit down with them, a powwow, whatever it is. Explain to them who I was, why I did what I did. But as far as me seeking you out, it's not up to me. I don't deserve the release, as it were, from hunting you down and making you forgive me. That's terrible. I can't believe that's one of the steps in AA. That's fucking bullshit is what it is. Don't make somebody relive some bullshit that you fucking did. Bottom line. These cowards. Anyway, I shouldn't say that in such harsh tones, but like to me, it just resonates. Why on earth would I want somebody else to suffer? Why at all? Unless I was the tiniest man on the planet. Anyway, I digress. I could go on for hours about that. But the whole episode, the whole purpose of this, Jesus, we're up to like 40 odd minutes. The whole purpose of this was for us to grab life by the Caljunes. There is a world of amazing things going on out there and around us, and what we focus on is what we create. If you want more, create more, do more, be more, see more, say more, love more, love your fucking self. You're so cool. And yet, you're your own worst enemy. Isn't that wild? You're young, you're wild, you're free, you're beautiful. You're pulling Glade plugins out of the wall because why the hell are they there in the first place? Life is way too short. It doesn't matter if you live to 120. Life is way too short. You, me, and Red Green, we got to get out there and we got to enjoy stuff. And we absolutely have to keep our stick on the ice. Ladies and gentlemen, I love each and every one of you. I thank each and every one of you for sticking with me this long. 300 episodes. 600 episodes coming up. We're going to get there faster than the first 3. I'll tell you that much because there's more I want to say. There's more I want to do. There's more happening. There's more things going down. And I love the idea of cultivating this catalog of A, my thoughts, and of B, this hopeful, positive motion, this positivity, this thing that's moving forward. And to every one of you that hates me, I love you. And to every one of you that loves me, I love you too. It's time to have fun. It's time to figure it out. It's time to de-stress. It's time to let go. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourself a merry little Christmas.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode of the Mental Mastery Alliance podcast. Stay connected with us directly through the mentalmasteryalliance.com. You can also join the discussion on Instagram at instagram.com/the Mental Mastery Alliance. Let the team know you're listening by using the hashtag TMMA or tagging us at the Mental Mastery Alliance. To have your voice heard on the show, leave a voicemail or send a text to 647-338-1265. Long distance charges may apply. If you love us, leave us a review. If you hate us, you spend your time in weird ways, but also leave a review. Every review on iTunes tickles the algorithm, helping us grow. Until next time, unity over division. This concludes the most surreal portion of your day.
You got it, Pontiac.